Hello everyone and welcome. So you might remember a video I made about throwing axes. Now in that video I broke the handle of this axe when throwing it.
So yeah, the axe broke.
So in this video what we're going to do is to try to make a new handle for it. Let's get started. So the first step here is going to be to remove the wood that's still inside the head, and I also want to keep this metal thing that's inside here, either to reuse it on this axe or just to have it for future project, anything like that. But anyways, I have to remove the wood inside here. Let's do that. And here we go. Okay, so that was way harder than I thought it would be. I thought I could just hammer on the back and then it would go out, but I had to use a drill and just carve it out basically, so it was way harder. But we have it done. Now, for the metal thing, I damaged it a little bit with a drill because it's only an aluminium piece, but I mean, we can still reuse it if we have to. And this head weighs about 640 grams, maybe 630. Okay, so if we look at the handle here, one thing we can notice very clearly is that the handle has broken. It's not the head that has come loose off the handle. Now that's both a bad and a good news. It's a good news because it means that my construction isn't the problem and my construction actually held. But it is a bad news because it means that the wood I'm using isn't good enough. So I actually have to change the wood I'm using. Now, this piece of wood here is ash, and it is taken from the core of a bigger trunk or branch. I can't exactly remember, but it's taken from the core of a piece of wood, because if you take a piece of wood, the core is stronger than the outside, because it's older and more strong. The problem is that I took this from the biggest tree I could find, and I don't really have access to bigger tree with stronger cores. Now, I don't know if it is the wood itself and the piece of wood that I chose that is the problem, or if it is the way I cured the wood, because of course you have to let the wood dry to get rid of all the humidity before you attach it on the head, because if you see here, you have a certain hole you need to fit it through, and obviously if it's wet when you fit it through that hole, you put it through, then it will shrink by drying, and it will be too small for that hole once it dries. So you need to dry it fully before you can actually put it on the head. So maybe it's the wood I'm using, maybe it's the way I cured it, I don't know, but I've tried to find out more about how you're supposed to cure this kind of wood and stuff like that, and I haven't been able to find any better solution than what I already did. So I don't really know what wood or way of curing it I should use. So what I actually ended up doing was to go ahead and buy a sledgehammer handle. Reason being that, well, it's a sledgehammer handle. These are supposed to be extremely strong because they're supposed to be made for sledgehammers, and that means that they are cured in the perfect way, they are taken from the perfect wood, and so on. Now, this is still ash, but it should be good enough, and it's also of the perfect right size. You can see it's basically the same size as the old handle. So I think that this is our best option. Okay, so as you can see, the handle is kind of widening up the top here, and then it has a long shaft. Now, clearly we'll not be using all of that because we're not making a very, very long axe. We want an axe that actually is usable. So what I'm actually going to do is to just cut off this widening part up here and just keep the other rest of the handle. A reason being that this is just a tiny bit wider than the eye of the head, so I can actually just shape this up to fit through that eye. Now let's talk about the length, because when I got this head here, it was attached on this shaft here. Then it came loose off that shaft, so I actually had to make this one. But in any case, this shaft here is pretty short. It was 47 centimeters long, so it's quite a short handle. So when I made this handle here, I made it way longer. This one is 72 centimeters long. Now, this one was perfectly usable as an axe, but it was just a bit on the heavy end. So I think that when I make this handle here, what I'm actually going to do is just to make it a bit shorter than this one, just to have a bit more of a nimble axe. And of course, I'm going to make it longer than this one because that one is just a bit too short. Now, I haven't yet decided exactly what the length will be, and that is simply because I'm actually going to fit the head on the handle before I start trimming it down to the right length. Reason being that I want to kind of get a feel of how heavy it will be to just get it at the exact right length. If I just guess now what that length will be, let's say I take like 65 centimeters, something like that, then the problem is that maybe I will have made it too short, maybe I will have made it too long, and I will have to adjust it, or potentially even scrap the whole handle because it's too short. So I want to change the size of the handle after having actually fit the head. So let's get started by fitting the head, trimming off that, and just shaping everything up. Okay, so I cut off this thick piece here, and then I just took some 80 grit sandpaper, I just polished it up just a little bit. Now we can start fitting on the head, and as you can see, it just not quite fitting on there yet, which is exactly what we want, because we want to just take a bit at a time away to be able to fit it on perfectly. We don't want to take too much off at the time, because then we're going to risk to take off too much, and we also want to stay as even as possible around the whole handle, so we can actually get the head on straight, because the problem is that we want it like this. If I'm not taking off around the handle evenly, I can get the head to be a bit too much like this or something like that. So to get it as straight as possible, we want to do it evenly across the whole handle. Anyways, let's get started by just cutting off a little bit here. Okay, so right now we have it rather far through. You can see it's almost sticking out here. Now, what I'm going to do now, I cannot keep hammering on top of here because now I'll be hammering on the handle itself. So what I'm going to do is to grab this piece of wood here, and I'm actually just going to saw off the end, and I'm going to drill like a big hole in here, the same size as the end of the handle. That way I can actually use the wood around to hammer on the head without touching the handle itself. So I can actually keep hammering on it to get the handle further through. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here it is, and I can use that to hammer on the metal only and not on the handle itself. Now, one thing I will say is that I think I'm going to end up having to make the whole handle just a little bit thinner, because it feels a bit thick in the hand, and it means a sledgehammer handle it's supposed to be a bit thick. But I think we'll have to thin it down just a little bit, and also because it is relatively thick compared to the eye of the head, and I don't want to have to thin it down too much up at the head, because then we're going to create a weak spot, and clearly we don't want that. So I think I'm going to end up thinning it down a little bit. Okay, so now the whole handle is shaped up. As you can see, we have a bit of like flare out back here, so it actually stops the hand from sliding away. The end here is not done. Of course, we have this big thing here that we'll not keep, but again, I'm just keeping it because I'll be putting it down to the ground when I'm actually hammering on top, and if I do that, I'll actually damage the bottom, and I don't care about damaging this end here that we're not going to keep. If I finish it completely and then damage it, that's not going to look that's not going to look good, so I don't want to do that. Now this piece of wood here that I made with a hole in it to hammer only on the steel, I ended up actually cutting off the end and only using the end because this big piece of wood is a bit impractical and not really necessary, so I ended up only using this, and this has been working perfectly fine. And as you can see, it works by you just put it on here, and that way you can hammer only on the steel without actually hammering on the handle itself, and it just gets on here and just sits securely here. So it's quite good, really good thing to make if you're making an axe. Now, what we have to do now is just hand sand everything so it's nice and smooth, and then we'll just hand sand, just remove the head, hand sand in here to just get everything smooth and just get the head to sit perfectly in there, perfectly straight and everything like that. So yeah, let's get started with hand sanding. Okay, so the whole handle is now hand sanded. It is all smooth and nice. There still are some rough spots up here, like there, for example. Still are some rough spots. What I have to do now is to just get the head a bit lower down, I think, because where I've put the handle, it's still, you know, a tiny bit heavy. It's perfectly fine, but I'd rather have it a tiny bit shorter. So maybe if I can get this part of the head like down there or something, that would be better. Now, another thing that I've noticed is that the head is still not entirely straight compared to the axe shaft. It's just a tiny bit bent. But I actually think that's the head itself not being entirely straight. It's very hard to see, but if I hold the top back of the head straight, you can actually see the blade being a little bit bent compared to that top of the eye of the axe. Now, I don't think that it bent when I broke the handle or anything like that. I think it just was made just a little bit bent because, well, I don't see exactly how you could bend this amount of steel cold too easily. So I think it's when it was made, but, you know, I'm sure like most axes would be like this historically in any case. One thing I have noticed is that this wood here is way stronger than this wood here. And if I take this like center punch and make a hole here, you can see it makes a hole. And then if I make a hole right here, it makes a bigger hole compared to the wood that I'm using now. So this wood here is just a little bit softer than this one. So there definitely is a difference, which is a good sign because it means that this one is theoretically stronger. The next step is just going to be to try to drive the head further down on the shaft to, well, make the whole axe a little bit shorter and to get it attached a little bit better. I'm just going to keep doing that. Okay, so right now the head fits well on, and well, we can start to just hand sand it to like the final finish before actually attaching the head on. Now, I don't think I'm gonna get like a particular finish in any sort of way on this handle. I'm just gonna keep it like plain wood. Like on the old handle, I clearly had the engraving, but I also had this fire hardening thing going on. Here, I think I'm just gonna keep it just like plain wood. I think it'll look cool just like that. Just keep it simple. So yeah, that's the plan. So anyways, what we're going to do right now is just hand sand it just a little bit more, just get it absolutely perfect. And then we can actually start attaching the head on the shaft. Okay, so we are now basically done with the handle. I've smoothed everything up with a fine grit sandpaper. So this handle is now basically done. Now what we're going to do now is to take this piece of oak here and make a wedge. Now I'll show you exactly how we're going to use this wedge once I have made it. It's a little bit hard to explain without having it. So I'm going to start by making it, and then I can show you what we'll do next. Okay, so right here we have, first of all, an oak wedge, which is in this shape right here. Then we have a metal wedge, which we might use, but I'm not sure, we'll see. Then we have the head, of course. I've actually sharpened the head, reason being that it's much easier to sharpen the head alone than to sharpen it once it's on the shaft, because then you have this long, impractical shaft. So I've sharpened it up before. And then, of course, we have the shaft itself. So what we're going to do is to take this handle and saw down the middle here up to this line that I made. Reason being that we'll put the head on after we've made that line, and this wedge here is going to go inside. And since it's widening up towards the top, that's actually going to widen up the wood on the top of the head. So if the head is like here, the wood that is above it will widen out, meaning that the head cannot go out again. That's a plan. And then what we'll do before we actually put on the head is to actually oil the whole surface around here. So just take some linseed oil and just oil around the whole thing. Reason being that, well, the oil will make the head slide a little bit further, it will lubricate everything, so we can get the head to just come down a tiny bit further. And of course, just because, well, we'll do it with a whole handle because, well, it's just good for the wood to have some oil to treat it. Now, anyways, I'm just going to start sawing on this, and then we can start assemble everything. This is definitely the hardest part of the whole build, and it's the part where if I fail, I'll probably have to redo everything. So if you're halfway into the video now, it probably means that I have failed. Anyways, let's try not to fail and get done with this. Okay, so we have sawn down to the line, and now we're basically ready to start assembling everything. So I've got some linseed oil here, and what I'm going to do with it is to just put some where we're actually going to put the head. Reason being that, well, first of all, we treat the wood, and then second of all, we can actually use it to lubricate everything so the head can just slide down a little bit further. I'm just going to put some linseed oil there, then I'm going to put on the head, and then I'm going to put this wedge into this line and, well, hammer it down until it cannot go any further. That's the plan, and I'm just going to start doing it right now. Okay, it wasn't really supposed to go this far in, I have to say, because the problem is that, well, I first of all I used oil so it can go further in. The thing that I did that was that instead of using this one, since it's way too small, what I actually did was to use this axe head here, which is from an old axe, and I just put this in on here and hammer on that. Well, and the problem is that I could go much further then, and in addition to that, I also used a metal hammer because, well, metal transfers more force before I used a rubber hammer. So, well, it's way too far in. It's not a problem in itself. It's not a problem in itself because I still have some margin behind here to still have a long enough axe. The problem is that, well, this line that I sawed here is like way too short now. I think I'm just going to saw off the top here. Clearly we don't need this much wood on top, and then I'm just going to saw a new line to, well, the right point. It's not a problem yet, it's just that, well, I wasn't expecting it to go this far down, but yeah, anyways, I even had some margin for the line. I just sawed a little bit further than what I theoretically needed, but I mean, it went way farther than I thought. Anyways, it's not a problem because we have some margin here, but I'm just going to keep hammering a little bit on it just to get it as far as I possibly can. Then I'm going to remove it, cut off the top here, and just saw again the line. We'll see what happens. Okay, so this is where we are at right now. The head is on, and well, it's fixed properly and everything's good. Now, I forgot to mention, but I ended up using wood glue for the wedge just to make it a little bit stronger. And well, as you can see currently, it's not looking very nice. It's a bit rough, but that will clean that up. I'm just letting the glue set a little bit. Now, I think part of the reason why I could actually hammer the head down so far is because, well, I am sawing a line down to be able to attach the wedge. And the fact is that since I'm sewing that line, I'm removing material, the two other pieces can compress together, and therefore the effective size of the handle is smaller, therefore the head can go further down. Now, that is probably something I should have thought of before, but I didn't, like, okay. But yeah, that is like part of the reason why I could actually hammer it down so far. And of course you have all the other things, like I put oil on it, like I used a metal hammer and so on. Now in terms of the length, this is 59 centimeters long right now, meaning that we'll probably have to just thin down this portion here so we can actually use this portion as a handle. Now I would say this is actually a perfect length. Like I wanted to have it just a little bit longer so I could have like something to stop the hand at the end, but it is not a problem not to have it. And like most historical Viking battle axes were in between 45 and 60 centimeters in length. So this being a 59 is just perfect within that range. And well, there is a reason why they were within that range, because that's where they are the most nimble and the most usable. And this axe now is like really good weight. Like I can use it, it's nimble enough, but then it's also long enough to still be usable and have some range. So I actually think it's perfect. I was a little bit stressed to have put the head too far down, but in actual fact, it's just perfectly fine. So that's good. Now I just have to thin down this portion here, clean up the end, clean up the whole handle after having thinned down this, and then just clean up the top surface here, and then we'll basically be done. Okay, so that is it. The whole axe is done. The handle's looking great. It is perfectly stuck to the head. Nothing's moving around. I tried splitting some wood with it, and it's working absolutely fine. It feels great in the hand. It's not too heavy, yet not too light. So it's absolutely perfect. It ended up being 57 centimeters long, which is perfectly within the historical range. So the length is absolutely great. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.